Welcome back to the Motivated Mind Zone. Glad to have you here. Today, we're diving into the stack of sources you share with us, exploring this really interesting thought experiment. It might just shake up how you approach, well, success in your own life. So imagine two people right at the start of their journey. One is, exceptionally skilled, top grades, great technical know-how, maybe just natural talent. The other, maybe average by conventional standards, but they have something else, something invisible but incredibly powerful, an unstoppable attitude. Now, fast forward a few years. Who's really thriving? Who's leading the way, innovating, maybe living with more purpose? The research we've looked at suggests surprisingly often it's not just the most skilled person, it's the one whose attitude, that inner drive, carried them through storms that pure talent alone, well, it just couldn't handle.
It's a pretty bold claim, isn't it? This whole idea that attitude might actually matter more than skill. I mean, we pour so much energy into getting skills classes, certificates, practice, practice, practice. And let's be clear, skill absolutely matters. Of course it does. Think of it like a gleaming Ferrari. Super impressive, right? But what actually makes that engine roar? What turns potential into movement, effort into real progress, and progress into, lasting success? That's attitude. It's the fuel. It's the ignition key. It's maybe even a regular maintenance check, all stemming from your mindset, your resilience, your willingness to grow.
Exactly. And what we really want to unpack for you in this deep dive is why this works and how it operates. Our goal here, using your materials, is to arm you with some insights on how to strengthen your attitude so it can shape, well, everything in your life. It's about shifting that internal story from, okay, I need to be the most skilled, to maybe I need to cultivate the right attitude because, as we've seen in these sources, when your attitude is tuned right, the skills often follow, or the skills you do have become way more effective. So let's really get into this undeniable power of attitude. The core argument, and it pops up again and again in the articles you sent, it's simple but pretty profound. Ultimately, life doesn't just reward the most talented people, it rewards the most determined, the most committed.
Exactly. And it's really important to nail down what we mean by true attitude here. It gets misunderstood a lot. Our sources define it not as like fake positivity, not that everything's great, kind of mask. It's more a deliberate internal choice, a choice to engage with reality, challenges and all, and to actively look for solutions. It's the way you choose to see the world, how you respond when things go wrong, because they will, and the energy you bring. It really boils down to deciding whether you even try to solve a problem, regardless of how skilled you think you are. It's the difference, really, between just hoping things improve and deciding, okay, I'm going to make them better.
Yeah, and the power of that choice comes through so clearly in that anecdote you included. The one about the two salesmen. Imagine these two experienced guys sent to a remote country, and they get there and find out nobody wears shoes. Nobody. The first salesman, he immediately cables back home. Total disaster. No opportunity here. Nobody wears shoes. Just, gives up.
But the second salesman, looking at the exact same facts, the same situation, sends a completely different message back. He wires, massive opportunity, unbelievable potential. Everyone needs shoes. Same place, same facts, probably similar sales skills. But the attitudes, polar opposites. One saw a dead end, the other saw a wide open market. It just shows how attitude shapes your reality before you even do anything. It wasn't about what they could do skill-wise. It was how they chose to see the situation.
And what really strikes me there is that internal versus external thing. Skill often feels external, right? You can learn it, measure it, maybe even hire someone else with it.
Yeah.
But attitude, that's purely internal. You have to choose it. You have to cultivate it. And that makes it uniquely powerful and actually really resilient. Nobody can just take your attitude away from you. We see this playing out everywhere, don't we? Sports, business, take Michael Jordan. Consider maybe the greatest basketball player ever. But he got cut from his high school varsity team. Famously cut. Imagine if his attitude was just, oh, well, guess I'm not good enough. I'll do something else.
Yeah, game over.
Right. Instead, that rejection became fuel. His attitude was, okay, I'll work harder than anybody. I will prove them wrong.
Ah,
That relentless drive, born purely from his attitude, wasn't just part of his greatness. It arguably defined it.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Or think about a modern workplace scenario, like you touched on from the notes.
Yeah.
You might have two employees. One is technically brilliant, maybe a coding wizard, but they complain all the time, resist change, hate feedback. The other person, maybe not quite as naturally gifted technically, but they show up eager, they're open to learning, they ask questions, they work well with others. Now, who gets the promotion? Who earns the trust to become a leader? More often than not, it's not just about raw skill. It's the person whose attitude lifts the team, who shows they're ready to grow.
It's like attitude multiplies whatever skill you have. There was a great analogy in the materials. Skill is like your toolbox. You got the hammer, the nails, the wood, maybe even a fancy blueprint. But attitude, that's the builder's hands. It's the persistence to keep going when a storm hits, the creativity to solve unexpected problems. It's the vision to see the finished house. Without that attitude, the best tools just sit there, unused. But with the right attitude, even with just a few basic tools, you can build something amazing.
And here's the really empowering part, especially psychologically. Unlike skill, which can take years to really hone, attitude, well, it can shift in a single decision. You can choose right now, today, to see opportunities instead of just problems. You can choose to see setbacks as lessons, not failures, to believe you can grow. That choice, that internal shift, it's always available to you right now.
So let's bring this right back to you, listening right now. Think about one area in your life where you've been holding back, maybe waiting until you feel skilled enough. Is it learning that language? Starting the side project? Speaking up in a meeting? Now ask yourself honestly, is it really a lack of skill holding you back? Or is it maybe the attitude underneath? What if you just chose to believe right now that your current skill is enough to start? That simple shift from I can't yet to okay, I can try this, that's often the very first step.
That sums it up perfectly. Attitude really is the difference.
Yeah.
It's the difference between seeing a closed door and daring to knock, or even push it open. It's that spark when your skills feel like they're not quite enough, and it's totally within your control. Skill might impress people initially, sure, but attitude inspires them. Skill gets you in the door, maybe, but attitude keeps you there, and it decides how high you'll climb. It's the foundation.
Okay, so if attitude has this undeniable power, that leads us straight to something a bit, well, uncomfortable maybe. It came up in a lot of the articles. Skill looks like the ultimate advantage. It's visible, you can measure it. But the uncomfortable truth our deep dive keeps pointing to is that skill, by itself, it's just not enough.
And history's just littered with examples of this. Really brilliant, talented people, even prodigies, despite incredible abilities, they fell short or failed completely. Why? Because skill, without the right attitude guiding it. It's like having a super powerful engine, perfectly tuned, but with nobody driving the car. It just sits there, wasting potential. Or worse, it crashes.
Let's break down why skill alone can fall short. Reason 1, skill doesn't automatically give you resilience. Think about a naturally gifted musician, maybe a pianist. Everything came easily. Complex pieces, no problem, never really had to struggle. But then later in life, they faced real adversity, intense competition, harsh critics, maybe an injury. Without having built that resilient attitude, that mental toughness, even immense talent can just crumble under pressure.
Yeah, the first real storm hits and they fold.
Exactly. Their skill got them far, but it didn't prepare them for the fight.
Whereas you might have another pianist, maybe less naturally gifted initially. They had to work incredibly hard, faced rejection, kept getting back up. Their early skill wasn't as flashy, maybe, but their attitude, that sheer determination to improve, kept them going, kept them practicing. The research shows these are often the people who end up surpassing the naturals, not because of talent, but because their mindset was forged in those challenges. Skill alone doesn't prepare you for life's storms. Attitude does.
Reason 2, and this one's subtle but really dangerous. Skill doesn't guarantee humility. This is a huge trap. When you're really good at something, it's easy to get confident, which is fine. but it can slide into arrogance. You start thinking your talent makes you invincible or that you already know everything you need to know.
The curse of knowledge trap.
Right. Or maybe Dunning-Kruger in a new area. You're so confident from this skill, you overestimate your competence over there. And what happens? You stop learning, you stop adapting, you stop growing, and the world just moves on without you.
We've seen this happen dramatically in industries hit by disruption. Think about technology shifts. Highly skilled professionals who thought their way was the only way, they resisted the change, and they got left behind. Meanwhile, others, maybe with less initial specific skill, but with a better attitude, more curiosity, more openness, willing to adapt, they thrived. Skill can actually make you rigid sometimes. Attitude keeps you flexible, keeps you ready for what's next.
And the third reason, skill doesn't guarantee teamwork. This is massive in almost any job today. Your sources had that example of the brilliant software engineer, top university, technically flawless, but within weeks, the team couldn't stand working with him. Dismissed ideas, constant criticism, just toxic.
Yeah, brilliant jerk.
Exactly. His amazing technical skill couldn't save him. His attitude drove him right out the door. Contrast that with someone maybe less technically experienced, but who's collaborative, positive, builds people up. They often grow into leaders much faster.
It really highlights that point from organizational psychology research. Skill might get you the interview, get you hired, but attitude, that determines if you keep the job, if you thrive, and especially if you become a leader people actually want to follow. Even the most brilliant person can sink a team if their attitude is wrong.
And this next one, I bet a lot of you listening can relate to this. The waiting for perfection trap. You find yourself waiting, wanting to feel skilled enough before you actually do the thing. Start the business, apply for the big job, give that presentation.
And the hard truth from the research is, well, perfection just never arrives. It's an illusion. So if you're waiting only on skill development, you could be waiting forever. Attitude changes the game entirely. With the right mindset, you don't wait for flawless. You start with what you have. Right now, you trust that you can learn as you go. That action is the best way to build skill. Without that attitude, even amazing talent can just sit on the shelf, unused.
Think about Thomas Edison again. He's remembered for his inventions, sure, but just as much for his attitude. That famous line, "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work."
That's pure growth mindset.
Absolutely. It wasn't just a clever quote. It was how he operated. Imagine if he'd given up after attempt 100 or 1,000. History would be different.
Which leads to a really profound final point for this section. Skill. In many ways, it's finite. Attitude is infinite. Specific skills, they can become obsolete. Technology changes everything. Industries disappear. What you know today might not be relevant tomorrow. But attitude, that willingness to learn, that resilience, that humility that never goes out of style, it's timeless. So the question isn't just, what skills do you have? The deeper, more vital question from your materials is, what attitude are you bringing with those skills?
Because yes, skills might open the door, but attitude, that's what keeps you in the room and lets you truly flourish there. Okay, so if attitude is this crucial, maybe even more crucial than skill, the big question is, how do we actually build it? There's this myth floating around that attitude is just, something you're born with, fixed. But this deep dive, based on your sources, it completely debunks that. Attitude is fundamentally a choice. And like any choice, you can strengthen it with practice. Build it up brick by brick, day by day, as one article put it.
Exactly. A winning attitude isn't magic. It's not spontaneous. It's a series of deliberate choices, repeated over time. And the really empowering thing is, you already have everything you need to start cultivating it today. We can break down the core elements into 3 essential traits, all interconnected: growth mindset, adaptability, and grit.
Let's start with growth mindset. This comes from Carol Dweck's research. A fixed mindset basically says, this is who I am, my abilities are set. Can't really change much, but a growth mindset. It says, I can improve, I can learn, my abilities aren't carved in stone.
You see this play out all the time. Take someone facing a tough math problem. Fixed mindset says, I'm just bad at math. I'll never get this. Shut down. Growth mindset says, okay, I don't understand this yet, but if I work at it, maybe ask for help, I can figure it out.
Mm.
That one little word yet, it's incredibly powerful.
Mm.
Research even shows, like with fMRI scans, that a growth mindset changes how your brain reacts to mistakes. It activates learning centers, not just threat responses. Mistakes literally become opportunities for your brain to rewire.
That's a fantastic practical tip right there. Just consciously practice swapping I can't for I can't yet. It immediately opens up possibilities and gives you permission to actually grow.
Okay, next up, adaptability. Life, as you probably know, rarely goes exactly to plan. Careers shift, industries change, unexpected stuff happens all the time. A winning attitude doesn't fight this constant flux, it embraces it, it leans into it.
It's like that tree analogy in a storm. The rigid tree that won't bend, it snaps. But the flexible tree sways, adapts, and survives. Adaptability is that flexibility. It's being willing to pivot, to learn new things, to try different approaches when the old ways aren't working anymore. It's that internal voice asking, okay, this didn't work. What else can I try? What's the next move?
And a great practical tip for building adaptability, something we saw in those personal development articles you sent over,
Yeah.
is to intentionally step outside your comfort zone regularly. Small ways. Try a new hobby, take a different route to work, talk to someone new. The more you get comfortable with small changes, the easier it becomes to handle the big ones.
And finally, grit. Angela Duckworth defines this as passion and perseverance for long-term goals. It's basically that refusal to quit even when things get really hard or boring or just take forever. Everyone's motivated at the start, right? But what about when the excitement wears off, when obstacles pop up, when you're not seeing results? That's where grit kicks in, that steady, quiet determination.
Exactly. True grit, as Duckworth's work shows, isn't just being stubborn. It's connected to a deep passion for that long-term goal. It really shows up when motivation is low, when things are tough. It's about consistency, showing up even on the days you really don't feel like it, building habits that carry you through.
So how do you build those grit muscles? Start small. Commit to one tiny action towards your goal every single day, maybe just 10 minutes. Those small, consistent wins, they add up. They build that grit over time.
And beyond those three core traits, your materials also gave some really practical everyday tips. First, surround yourself wisely. You know the saying, attitude is contagious. So choose people who lift you up, encourage you, challenge you positively, avoid the energy drainers. Second, reframe failures. Instead of why me, consciously ask, okay, what did I learn here? Every setback becomes data, a lesson. Third, practice gratitude. Just jotting down 3 things you're grateful for each day. It sounds simple, but it genuinely shifts your focus, refuels positivity. Fourth, watch your self-talk. Replace that harsh inner critic with something more constructive, like, okay, I'm learning here, I'm improving. And fifth, take imperfect action. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Just start. Start now with what you have and figure it out as you go.
Ultimately, building this winning attitude, it all comes back to realizing you always have a choice. Always. You can choose to see limits or opportunities, to quit or keep going, to complain or create. It might not always feel easy, that choice, but it is always yours. So the question becomes, what kind of attitude are you actively building today? Because that's what will carry you through. Okay, let's shift gears now from the ideas to seeing attitude in real action. Let's bring these concepts alive with some powerful stories of transformation from the materials you shared. These stories really drive home how attitude makes that crucial difference between just falling short and achieving something truly extraordinary.
Yeah, these examples are like proof points, aren't they? They show that while skill is valuable, absolutely, it's attitude that forges legends.
Let's start with Serena Williams. You look at her, you see incredible talent, raw power, amazing skill, obvious. But dig deeper into her story. What stands out again and again isn't just the athleticism, it's her incredible attitude, Her resilience. She fought through career-threatening injuries, intense public pressure, personal setbacks, even doubts after becoming a mother about returning to the top. But that mindset, that I can and I will belief, that carried her. It's what made her not just a great athlete, but an icon.
It's such a clear example. Talent gets you in the door, gets you started. But it's that fierce, unshakable attitude that keeps you in the game, fighting, winning, long after others might have quit. It's believing, deep down, that you belong there and you have what it takes to overcome anything.
Then there's Howard Schultz. Starbucks. He didn't come from money or connections. Grew up poor. And when he had this vision for a different kind of coffee experience in America, he faced rejection after rejection. Investors just weren't buying it.
Said no again and again.
Right, but his attitude, that persistent belief in his idea, his absolute refusal to take no for an answer, keep knocking on doors that changed everything, that conviction turned a concept into a global giant.
Was he the most skilled businessman on earth when he started? Probably not, by standard measures. But he had the attitude to learn, to adapt, to keep pitching, to believe when no one else did. That mix of willingness and sheer persistence, that's what mattered. It shows you can find opportunity even in failure if your attitude is right.
And a more personal story from one of the case studies. Javier. A young guy moves to a new country, big language barrier, struggling with grades initially. Some teachers maybe wrote him off, thought he wasn't naturally academic. But Javier refused to accept that narrative. His attitude was, okay, I'll study harder, I'll ask more questions, I'll find help, I will keep trying.
And while others, maybe with similar starting points, got discouraged and drifted, Javier kept at it, day after day, driven by that internal choice. And what happened? Within a few years, he didn't just master the language, he excelled. Got a major scholarship. It's a beautiful reminder. Yes, skill can be taught, skill can be learned, but it's the willingness to learn, that core attitude that turns possibility into reality.
These are big, inspiring stories, but attitude plays out constantly in smaller ways too, right, in our everyday lives. At work, project hits a snag, skill helps fix the technical bit, attitude determines if you blame someone or take ownership to find a solution. Relationships, communication skills are good, but attitude, patience, kindness, really listening, that's what builds deep trust.
Absolutely.
Health, it's not about having perfect form on day one. It's the consistent effort, the attitude of sticking with it that gets results, learning anything new. It's that attitude of, I'll keep going until I get this.
And it's not just about you either. Attitude has this ripple effect. One really negative person on a team can pull everyone down, lower productivity, kill morale. But conversely, one person who walks in with energy, with hope, with resilience, they can lift the whole room, make challenges seem less daunting. You don't always have to be the most skilled person to be a leader. Sometimes it's just about having the attitude that inspires others.
So for you listening, how can you put this into action right away, starting today? When a problem hits, try shifting from why me to, okay, how can I approach this? Treat every failure like feedback. Ask, what's the lesson here? What did this teach me? Lead with energy, even if you don't feel like the expert in the room. Bring that positive initiative. And practice small acts of courage. Raise your hand, ask the question. Take that first step, even if it feels a bit scary. Here's a specific challenge for you for this week, based on the advice in your materials. Pick one situation where you usually hold back because you think, I'm not skilled enough. This week, instead of waiting, step into it with an attitude of just pure willingness, engagement, curiosity. See what happens. You might genuinely surprise yourself at how far just that attitude shift takes you. All right, let's tackle something that came up subtly in a few articles, this illusion of the gifted few. Society loves to glorify natural talent, right? Makes it seem like greatness is just for a select few who were born special. But this deep dive really challenges that. It suggests that belief can actually be pretty dangerous, kind of disempowering.
Exactly. The reality, when you look at the laws behind the legends, it's usually very different. Most extraordinary people weren't just born that way. They built themselves, brick by brick, choice by choice. Think about Edison again. His teachers literally said he was too stupid to learn anything.
Hmm.
By conventional measures, his early skill set was, well, not great. But what did he have? Boundless curiosity, unshakable perseverance, and that amazing growth-oriented attitude towards failure. 10,000 ways that won't work. That's not skill talking. That's pure attitude in action, applying the growth mindset scientifically.
And you see the same pattern everywhere. J.K. Rowling, struggling single mom, manuscript rejected, what was it, 12 times?
12 times, yeah.
Her skill as a writer was there, no doubt. But it was her attitude, her deep belief that this story mattered, that it deserved to be told, that got her through all that rejection. That's what led to Harry Potter.
And back to Michael Jordan one last time. Getting cut from that team, that could have been the end. Easily. Instead, he used it. Turned disappointment into fuel. Adopted that attitude of just relentless practice, total determination. It wasn't just about his incredible skill. It was the mindset, the internal fire that pushed him and everyone around him from ordinary to truly extraordinary. It set a whole new standard.
It really highlights what some sources call the compound effect of attitude. Extraordinary results usually don't come from one giant leap. They come from tiny, consistent choices day after day. Choosing persistence over quitting. Choosing optimism over doubt. Choosing growth over just staying comfortable. Imagine two people starting with equal skills. One sees every setback as a stop sign. The other sees it as a detour. A year later, their paths will look completely different, all because of attitude.
So becoming extraordinary in your own life, it doesn't require fame or genius or some lucky break. It requires an intentional shift in how you approach things. Ask yourself those tough questions. How do I face challenges with curiosity or fear? Do setbacks make me want to quit, or do they make me want to learn? And do I really truly believe that my attitude today is shaping who I become tomorrow? Your honest answers there show you exactly where you can start making those small, powerful adjustments.
And maybe a final thought for this section, something that really resonated from the resources. Extraordinary doesn't mean perfect. It doesn't mean easy. It means living with purpose, with resilience, with courage. It means choosing to get back up one more time than you fall down. That little extra that separates ordinary from extraordinary. It's not usually skill, it's built on attitude. So as we wrap up this deep dive into attitude versus skill, just take a moment. Reflect on this journey through the materials you shared. We started by saying skills matter, of course they do, but they aren't the ultimate foundation for lasting greatness. The stories we've touched on, inventors, athletes, everyday people overcoming odds, they all prove this point, don't they?
They really do. And if you take away just 3 core truths from our discussion today, let them be these. 1. Your attitude fundamentally shapes your destiny. Skills open doors, sure, but attitude determines how far you walk through them. 2. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's an essential part of the journey to success. With the right attitude, every setback becomes a lesson, a stepping stone. And 3. Extraordinary isn't something you're born with. It's something you build daily. It's the sum of consistent, intentional choices, those small extra bits.
Now, this is the important part. Don't just let this be interesting information. Apply it. Choose one specific area of your life right now, career, relationships, learning something new, your health. Just pick one and make a commitment right now to approach that area with a new attitude. Maybe it's more resilience, more focus on growth, or just a bit more courage. Write it down. Say it out loud. Make it real for yourself. Carry it forward.
Because that extraordinary life you imagine, it's not reserved for somebody else. It's not just for the gifted. It's waiting for you. The only real question left, the choice that's always yours, is what attitude will you choose to live by today? Aight. Once you make that conscious choice, embrace that right attitude, you'll find the skills often develop, the doors start opening, and the life you pictured begins to actually unfold.
So remember this. Attitude is more important than skill. That's the core message. But the choice to cultivate and live with the right attitude, that choice is always, always yours. What will you do with that choice in the next 24 hours?